I walked into my brother's basement and heard him say I was dead to this family. Those words, crackling through Marcus's phone speaker, stopped me cold on the bottom step. I'm Natalie Crawford, 32 years old, and that October afternoon in Portland, Oregon, my entire world inverted. For context on why this gutted me, I'd spent the last 5 years of my life caring for our grandmother, Eleanor Crawford, while she battled Alzheimer's, sacrificing weekends, vacations, and sleep to manage her medications, doctor appointments, and finances. When she passed 6 months prior, I was told her estate, a stunning 47-acre vineyard property in the Willamette Valley worth $1.8 million, was in legal review. The truth hit me in that basement. My brother Marcus, 35, my parents Richard and Diana Crawford, both 62, and my younger sister Sophia, 28, had conspired with a corrupt attorney to forge a new will, cutting me out entirely and splitting everything 3 ways. I'd walked down those stairs to grab the power drill I'd lent Marcus 3 weeks earlier. Instead, I captured 6 minutes of him laughing into his phone about how Natalie will never know what hit her. The lawyer buried it so deep even forensics couldn't trace it. My hand shook as I hit record on my phone, audio crystal clear in the concrete space. Hello, beloved listeners. Thank you for joining me today. If you enjoy stories like this, don't forget to subscribe to the channel and hit that notification bell. I'm always curious to know which corners of the world you're tuning in from. Let me know your city in the comments. Enjoy the story. I climbed those stairs in complete silence, drill forgotten, and walked to my car 3 blocks away before the rage erupted. What they didn't know was that I had something they'd never possessed: patience, technical skills, and access to the original will Grandma Eleanor had filed with her longtime attorney, a document she'd shown me personally 2 years before her death. The war started that day, but they wouldn't know until I'd already won. Growing up in Portland's Laurelhurst neighborhood, I learned early that being the middle child meant being invisible. Our brick colonial on East Burnside housed what looked like the perfect American family. Dad ran a mid-level insurance agency. Mum taught elementary school, Marcus played football, and charmed everyone effortlessly. And Sophia arrived 7 years after me, the surprise baby who could do no wrong. I was the one who got A's without praise, who paid for my own college at Portland State through work-study programs and night shifts at a downtown coffee shop, who picked practical careers in data analysis while Marcus pursued his passion for craft beer with full parental funding. Grandma Eleanor saw through it all. She'd built that vineyard with Grandpa Thomas back in 1978, turning raw land into a boutique operation producing 3,000 cases annually of award-winning Pinot Noir. When Grandpa died in 2012, she kept it running with hired help, but by 2018, the Alzheimer's made management impossible. I started visiting every Saturday, driving the 45 minutes south to Carlton to handle her bills, coordinate with the vineyard manager, and just sit with her as her memory dissolved. By 2020, she needed full-time care. I hired nurses with my own savings, moved her into a memory care facility, costing $8,500 monthly, and became her legal guardian. Marcus visited twice in 5 years. My parents came for holidays only if I organized everything. Sophia never came at all, too busy building her Instagram presence as a lifestyle influencer with 47,000 followers she'd bought in bulk. The microaggressions started young and never stopped. At 16, when I won a state science fair with a project on predictive algorithms for crop yields, Dad glanced at the trophy and said, "That's nice, honey," then spent 20 minutes celebrating Marcus making second-string quarterback. When I graduated summa cum laude at 22, the family dinner lasted 45 minutes before talk shifted to Marcus's brewery dreams. Mum would introduce me at church as our daughter who works with computers, voice trailing off like she wasn't quite sure what that meant, while Marcus got full biographical storytelling, our son, the entrepreneur, opening Portland's next great brewery, bringing local jobs and community together. Money told the real story. When Marcus needed $85,000 in 2019 to launch Cascade Barrel House in southeast Portland, Dad refinanced the house, and Mum dipped into her teacher's retirement fund. I'd asked for $12,000 that same year for a down payment on a modest condo in Beaverton, showing them my budget spreadsheets, my stable job at a tech analytics firm, my perfect credit score of 752. Dad said, "You're smart with money, Nat. You'll figure it out on your own." I did, taking a second job doing freelance data visualization for startups. sleeping 5 hours a night for 8 months until I scraped together the minimum down payment of $18,000. Marcus's brewery failed within 18 months, burning through their investment plus another $40,000 in personal loans. Nobody mentioned it at Thanksgiving. When Sophia wanted a destination wedding in Cabo San Lucas, costing the family $30,000 in travel and gifts, everyone rallied. When I suggested we do Grandma's 80th birthday at a nice restaurant instead of my tiny apartment, Mum said, "Don't be selfish, Natalie. We can't afford extras right now." The breaking point before Grandma's death came in March 2021. She'd had a severe decline, and I'd been managing a crisis, finding new care placement, dealing with insurance nightmares, while working 50-hour weeks at my analytics job. I asked for help in the family group text. "Can someone please visit Grandma this Saturday? I haven't had a day off in 3 weeks and I'm drowning." Marcus replied 4 hours later, "Slammed with inventory this weekend, bro." Sophia sent a sad emoji. Mum wrote, "You're so good with her, honey. She really responds to you." Translation: "You're the unpaid caregiver. Stay in your lane." Dad didn't respond at all. Grandma Eleanor, in her lucid moments that became increasingly rare, would hold my hand with surprising strength and whisper, "You're the only one who sees, Natalie. The only one who cares." 2 years before she died, during one of her clear afternoons, she asked me to drive her to her attorney's office in McMinnville. Gerald Hobbs, 68, a lawyer she'd used since 1985. Prepared documents in his wood-paneled office that smelled like leather and old books. She signed her will in front of me and Gerald's paralegal. The vineyard property, valued then at $1.6 million, went entirely to me, along with $240,000 in liquid assets. Marcus received $50,000, Sophia $50,000, and my parents $100,000, with a note explaining that I'd earned the vineyard through years of devoted care. "They'll hate you for this," she said, eyes suddenly sharp. "But you've earned it, and I won't let them steal your future like they've stolen your present." I never told anyone about that meeting. Gerald gave me a copy of the will in a sealed envelope that I stored in a safety deposit box at U.S. Bank on Hawthorne Boulevard. Grandma declined rapidly after that. By late 2022, she didn't recognize anyone. She died on April 3, 2023, on a Tuesday morning while I sat holding her hand, reading her favorite Mary Oliver poems, even though she couldn't comprehend the words anymore. Marcus arrived at the hospital 40 minutes after she passed, shirt untucked, smelling like beer from an afternoon tasting event. My parents came from a teachers' conference, annoyed at the interruption. Sophia was in Hawaii and couldn't get a flight out in time. The funeral was standard. 60 people. Mostly her friends from the vineyard community. Shared stories I'd heard 100 times. Afterward, at the reception in my parents' house, Marcus cornered me in the kitchen. "So, the estate, Gerald says it needs probate, could take 6 months. But Mum and Dad think we should just sell the vineyard outright. Split it 4 ways. Clean and simple." I'd stared at him, coffee mug frozen halfway to my lips. "Grandma had a will." He waved it off. "Yeah, but you know how her mind was at the end? Gerald's reviewing everything to make sure it was all done properly, making sure nobody took advantage of her condition. The implication hung there, that I, the person who'd sacrificed everything, might have manipulated a dementia patient." I set down the mug carefully. "I'll wait to hear from Gerald directly." Weeks passed. Called Gerald's office twice. Left messages. His secretary said he'd call back. He never did. I drove to McMinnville on a Saturday in May, but the office was closed. A handwritten sign saying, "Family emergency, reopening June 5th. Something felt wrong, a cold weight in my gut that I couldn't shake. I started researching Oregon estate law, spent nights reading through probate procedures, learned about will contests and undue influence claims. By June, Gerald finally called. His voice sounded strained, careful. "Natalie, I need you to come in. There's been a development with Eleanor's estate." I went the next day, Wednesday afternoon, taking half a day off work. Gerald's office felt different. The warmth gone. He slid papers across his mahogany desk, hands trembling slightly. "This is the will Eleanor filed in January 2023, 3 months before her passing. It supersedes the 2021 version." I scanned the document, each word a knife. Everything split evenly. Marcus, Sophia, and my parents as equal beneficiaries. The vineyard to be sold, proceeds divided 4 ways, minus my share. I got $25,000. Period. "This isn't right," I said, voice steady despite my crashing heart rate. I was at the 2021 signing. I have a copy. Gerald wouldn't meet my eyes. The 2023 version was properly executed, witnessed by 2 staff members at the memory care facility, filed with the county. It's valid, Natalie. Sometimes people change their minds. But Grandma had been non-verbal by January 2023, unable to sign her own name, unable to recognize her own children. I knew this was impossible. I didn't argue. I thanked Gerald, took copies of everything, and walked out to my car in the parking lot, overlooking the town's main street. Sitting there, hands on the wheel, I made the decision that would define the next 4 years of my life. I wouldn't cry, wouldn't rage, wouldn't confront them with tears and accusations that would go nowhere. Instead, I'd build something so undeniable, so legally bulletproof, that when I finally struck, they'd lose everything. Not just the inheritance they'd stolen, but their freedom, their reputations, and any hope of recovery. That night, I opened my laptop and started mapping. First, I needed evidence of the forgery. I called Grandma's memory care facility, spoke with the director, Janet Mills, who I'd worked with for 3 years. Janet, I need a favor. The estate lawyer says Grandma signed a new will in January. Do you remember anything about that? Long pause. Natalie, your grandmother couldn't hold a pen by January. We had to feed her. She couldn't sign anything. If someone says otherwise, they're lying. I asked if she'd testify to that. She agreed immediately. Next, I researched forensic document examiners, found Dr. Patricia Lynn in Seattle, former FBI analyst specializing in signature authentication. I overnighted her copies of both wills along with medical records documenting Grandma's decline. Her preliminary assessment came back in a week. The 2023 signatures show hesitation marks and tremor patterns inconsistent with the patient's advanced Alzheimer's, likely traced or guided, definitely not independently executed. But evidence alone wasn't enough. I needed leverage, resources, and distance. My job at Portland Analytics Solutions, while stable, paid $78,000 annually, not nearly enough for the legal war ahead. I started applying to positions at major tech companies, targeting senior analyst roles in Seattle, San Francisco, anywhere with serious money. In August 2023, I got an offer from Vertex Predictive Systems in Seattle, $145,000 base. $40,000 signing bonus, equity package. I accepted without telling my family, packed my apartment in 3 days, and moved north. Mum called once asking why I hadn't been at Sunday dinner. Work got crazy, I'll visit soon, I lied smoothly. They didn't push. Seattle was cold, rainy, and perfect. I rented a studio in Capitol Hill for $1,850 monthly, walking distance from the office. Vertex developed AI-driven predictive models for various industries, and I was assigned to their agriculture division, analyzing crop yield optimization. The work fascinated me, reminding me of high school science projects and Saturday mornings walking Grandma's vineyard, learning about soil pH and canopy management. I absorbed everything: machine learning algorithms, remote sensing data analysis, precision agriculture technologies. My manager, Dr. Kenji Yamamoto, 52, a former professor from UC Davis, saw potential I'd never been encouraged to explore. You have intuition for this, Natalie, he said during a code review. You could build something significant if you wanted. I worked 70-hour weeks that fall, not because I had to, but because I wanted to. Every algorithm I mastered, every model I refined, was a weapon I was forging. By November, I'd developed a proprietary system for predicting vineyard disease outbreaks with 94% accuracy, using satellite imagery and weather pattern data. Kenji encouraged me to present at an agricultural technology conference in Napa Valley. I went in December, stood in front of 200 industry professionals, and delivered a presentation that got standing ovations. 3 venture capitalists approached me afterward. One, Victoria Chun from Cascade Ventures, sat with me at the hotel bar until midnight. You should start your own company, she said, sipping whiskey. This technology could revolutionize vineyard management worldwide. I'd invest. The idea crystallized. I'd build an empire in the exact field my family had stolen from me, become so successful they'd choke on their betrayal. I incorporated Crawford AgTech Solutions in January 2024, working nights and weekends while keeping my Vertex job. Victoria invested $500,000 for 15% equity. I built a beta platform offering vineyard management software, disease prediction, harvest optimization, all powered by AI models I'd developed. My first client was a small Oregon vineyard in the Dundee Hills, 15 minutes from Grandma's property. They paid $12,000 for a year-long pilot. The results were dramatic. They increased yields by 18% and reduced pesticide use by 35%. Word spread through the tight-knit wine community. By June 2024, I had 12 clients across Oregon and California, annual revenue of $340,000, and a team of 3, myself. A software engineer named Priya Kapoor I'd recruited from Vertex, and a viticulture consultant, James Martinez, who'd worked in Napa for 20 years. I quit my day job. Victoria invested another $800,000, and we moved into a small office in Seattle's Pioneer Square. My parents called occasionally, always the same script. How's work? Are you dating anyone? When are you visiting? I gave no answers, kept conversations under 5 minutes. Marcus texted once asking if I'd gotten over the will situation yet. I left him on read. The breakthrough came in October 2024 when a French vineyard conglomerate, Domaine Rousseau, contracted us for $890,000 to implement our system across their 400 hectares in Burgundy. The deal required me to spend 6 weeks in France, which I gladly did, returning to Seattle in December with connections throughout European wine regions. We closed the year with $2.1 million in revenue and a Series A funding round of $3.2 million, led by Victoria's firm and 2 others. Forbes ran a piece in their 30 Under 35 issue featuring me as a rising star in agricultural technology. The article included my full name, company valuation, and a photo of me in a vineyard holding a tablet showing our software interface. That article, published on February 14, 2025, was the match that lit the fuse. Marcus called 3 days later, number I hadn't saved but recognized. I let it go to voicemail. Hey Nat, it's Marcus. Saw the Forbes thing. Super proud of you, sister. We should catch up. Maybe grab coffee when you're in Portland. He called again the next day, left another message. Look, I know we haven't talked much, but family is family, right? I've got some business ideas I'd love your input on. You're obviously killing it. And I think we could do something together. Delete. The third call I answered. What do you want, Marcus? Silence, then fake surprise. Whoa, hostile much? I'm just trying to reconnect. You've been EMEA for over a year. Mum and Dad are worried. Sophia asks about you. I let him talk, hearing the rehearsed concern, waiting for the real pitch. It came 5 minutes in. So listen, I'm launching a new brewery concept, farm to glass, using local ingredients. It's genius. But investors want to see traction, and I'm a little short on capital. About $200,000 short, actually. And I was thinking, since you're doing so well, maybe you could loan me the money or invest. I'd give you equity, 20%. You'd make it back triple. I laughed. One sharp bark. Oh? He sputtered. What? Just like that. No discussion. I'm your brother. I hung up, blocked the number, and went back to work. 2 weeks later, my parents showed up in Seattle. I was in the office on a Saturday morning reviewing Q1 projections with Priya when the reception buzzer rang. The doorbell camera showed Mum and Dad standing on the sidewalk, looking up at our third-floor windows. I considered ignoring them, but decided confrontation was inevitable. I went down, met them on the street. Mum hugged me. I didn't hug back. Surprise, she said weakly. We were in the area. Thought we'd see your office. I knew they'd driven 3 hours specifically to ambush me. I let them in, gave a 5-minute tour, didn't offer coffee. Dad looked uncomfortable in the modern space with its glass walls and standing desks. Quite a setup, must cost a fortune in rent. I named the figure $8,000 monthly. He whistled. We sat in the small conference room and the real conversation started. Mum twisted her hands, eyes red. Natalie, we're concerned. You've been so distant. We miss you, and we need to talk about some family matters. I waited. Dad cleared his throat. The house, we took that refinance for Marcus's brewery, and with the market changes, we're upside down on the mortgage. Behind $180,000, bank is threatening foreclosure. We're both still working, but at our age, it's hard. I watched them without expression. Mum leaned forward. We know you're successful now, and we're so proud. We always knew you'd do well. And we're hoping you could help us, just temporarily. Alone, we'd pay you back. The ask hung there, shameless. I let the silence stretch until Dad fidgeted. Then I spoke, voice flat. You've refinanced your house to fund Marcus's dream after refusing to help me with $12,000. You split Grandma's estate 4 ways, cutting me out after I spent 5 years caring for her alone. You want me to bail you out now that your golden child failed again? Mum gasped. That's not fair. We love all our children equally. I stood. No, you don't. You never have, and now you're experiencing the consequences of your choices. I'm not your backup plan. Dad's face reddened. We're your parents. You owe us respect and help. I walked to the door, held it open. I owe you nothing. Leave my office. Don't come back. Don't call. We're done. Mum cried. Dad argued, but I stood firm until they shuffled out to their aging Subaru. I watched them drive away, feeling nothing but cold satisfaction. The Forbes article had another consequence. In March, I got a voicemail from a number with a Portland area code I didn't recognize. A man's voice, nervous. Miss Crawford, my name is Alan Hayes. I'm a paralegal. I worked for Gerald Hobbs until last month. I have information about your grandmother's will that I think you need to hear. I called back immediately. We met at a coffee shop in Portland's Pearl District 3 days later. Alan, 34, looked exhausted, scared. He slid a thumb drive across the table. Everything's on here. Emails between Gerald and your brother. Draft documents showing the forgery timeline. Payment records showing Marcus paid Gerald $45,000 to create the fake will and push it through probate. I plugged the drive into my laptop right there. Read through 200 pages of damning evidence. Email from Marcus to Gerald dated December 15th, 2022. Need to move fast on this. The old bat could kick any time. And I can't have Natalie walking away with everything. My parents are on board. Can you make it happen? Gerald's response. This is highly irregular and risky. If discovered, we could both face criminal charges. My fee for this service would be $45,000. Half up front. Bank records showed Marcus had withdrawn $22,500 from an account on December 20th. Another $22,500 on January 10th, 2023. More emails detailed how Gerald had forged Grandma's signature using a signature stamp he'd obtained years earlier for minor documents. How he'd paid 2 memory care staff members $2,000 each to sign as witnesses without actually witnessing anything. Alan explained why he'd come forward. Gerald's dying liver cancer, 6 months maybe, and he's trying to clear his conscience. But he won't testify, won't admit anything publicly. I think that's cowardly. What they did to you was evil. I quit rather than be part of it. And I thought you deserved to know the truth. I asked if he'd testify. He nodded. I'll do whatever you need. I have copies of everything. They can't touch me legally. I was just staff. I had no part in the actual fraud. I thanked him, paid for his coffee, and left with the thumb drive that would destroy my family. Back in Seattle, I contacted the law firm I'd retained months earlier for general corporate work. I asked for a meeting with their criminal law partner, explained the situation, provided all evidence. Margaret Thornton, 58, a former federal prosecutor who'd sent white-collar criminals to prison for decades, reviewed everything over a weekend. Monday morning she called, Natalie, this is a slam-dunk criminal case. Wire fraud, forgery, conspiracy. Your brother is looking at 5 to 10 years. The lawyer is looking at disbarment and prison time, even with his medical condition. Your parents could be charged as co-conspirators depending on their involvement level. I can file with the FBI's white-collar crime division by end of week. I told her to do it. While the criminal investigation quietly started, I focused on business. We expanded Crawford AgTech to Europe, opening an office in Bordeaux in April 2025, and hired a team of 8 French agronomists and developers. Revenue projections for 2025 hit $8.9 million. In May, a private equity firm approached about acquisition. I declined, but accepted a $12 million Series B investment at a $95 million valuation. The personal net worth crossed $30 million on paper. I bought a condo in Seattle's Belltown neighborhood overlooking Elliott Bay, 1,200 square feet. Floor-to-ceiling windows, $980,000 cash. I furnished it minimally. A bed, a couch, a desk, plants on the balcony. Weekends I hiked in the Cascades, had dinner with Priya and James. Lived a life of quiet success my family knew nothing about. The investigation moved slowly, as federal cases do. FBI agents interviewed Alan Hayes, subpoenaed Gerald's files, analyzed the forged documents with their own experts. By July, they'd built an airtight case. Margaret called me on a Friday afternoon. They're moving forward with indictments. Marcus, Gerald, and your parents as knowing participants. Arraignment scheduled for August 15th. I can have you there if you want. I did want. I took a week off work, flew to Portland, checked into the Heathman Hotel downtown under a fake name, and waited. Arraignment day arrived hot and clear. Temperature at 92 degrees by 10 a.m. I sat in the back of the federal courthouse in downtown Portland, wearing sunglasses, hair pulled back, unrecognizable. Marcus was first, escorted in by U.S. Marshals, hands cuffed, looking smaller than I remembered. The judge read charges: conspiracy to commit wire fraud, forgery, theft by deception. Marcus pleaded not guilty, bail set at $100,000, which his public defender said he couldn't make. My parents came next, Mum crying, Dad stoic. Same charges plus elder abuse for exploiting Grandma's condition. Their bail, $50,000 each, also unmeetable. Gerald wasn't present. He died 2 weeks earlier, cancer finally winning, taking some measure of justice with him. But I wasn't done. I had one more play, the nuclear option I'd been preparing for months. Through corporate shell companies, I'd been quietly monitoring the vineyard property my family had inherited and sold. The buyer, a real estate investment group, had immediately flipped it to a developer planning luxury homes. That developer had financing issues and by June 2025 had defaulted on their construction loan. The property went to foreclosure auction on August 28th. I registered to bid through another shell company, brought $2.3 million in verified funds, and sat in a conference room at the title company with 12 other bidders. The auction started at 9 a.m., opening bid at $1 million. It climbed fast. $1.2 million, $1.4 million, $1.6 million. At $1.8 million, only 3 bidders remained. I went to $2 million, then $2.1 million, then $2.2 million. The other bidders dropped out at $2.25 million. I bid $2.3 million, exactly what I'd brought. Sold, the auctioneer said. Gavel down. I signed papers as representative of Cascade Vineyard Holdings, LLC, a company whose ownership was buried under 3 layers of LLCs, ultimately controlled by me. Nobody in that room knew. Natalie Crawford had just bought back her grandmother's property for $500,000 more than it was worth, just to keep it from my family forever. 1 week later, I planned the confrontation I'd been imagining for 2 years. I sent a group text to my family's old thread. First message in over a year. Family dinner. My treat. Saturday, September 7th, 7 p.m. Canard Restaurant, private dining room. Be there. Marcus couldn't come. He was in jail awaiting trial. Bail finally denied after prosecution argued flight risk. But my parents, Sophia, Marcus's wife Amanda, whom I barely knew, and 2 cousins who'd sided with them all are SVPAD, yes. Probably expecting me to finally offer financial help. I arrived at Canard, one of Portland's top restaurants in Burnside's industrial district, at 6:30 p.m. I'd rented their entire 22-seat private dining room for the evening, $3,500 plus food and wine. I also invited 12 additional guests: Victoria Chun, Margaret Thornton, Dr. Patricia Lynn, the forensic document examiner, Alan Hayes, the paralegal, Janet Mills from Grandma's Memory Care Facility, Priya and James from my company, Gerald's former secretary who'd provided additional evidence, 2 FBI agents who'd worked the case, and a reporter from the Oregonian who I'd tipped off about a major story breaking that night. I seated them strategically around the long table, leaving empty seats for my family. My parents arrived at 7:02, Dad in an ill-fitting suit, Mum in a dress I recognized from my high school graduation. Sophia came at 7:05 with her husband Brad. She'd gained weight and looked tired, her influencer career having collapsed when Brands learned about the family's legal troubles. Amanda arrived last, Marcus's wife, 33. A preschool teacher who'd married him 4 years ago and now faced her husband's prison sentence. They took their seats, looking confused at the filled room. Dad scanned faces. Natalie, what's going on? Who are all these people? I stood at the head of the table, projector screen behind me, laptop connected. Thank you all for coming, I said, voice carrying in the acoustically perfect room. I've gathered you here tonight to discuss family legacy and consequences. I clicked the first slide. A photo of Grandma Eleanor in her vineyard, smiling, from 2018 before her decline. This is Eleanor Crawford, who built a legacy through 45 years of hard work, who loved her family even when they didn't deserve it, and who wanted to reward the one grandchild who actually cared for her in her final years. Next slide. The 2021 will. My name highlighted as primary beneficiary. This is the real will, properly executed, properly witnessed, legally binding. Next slide. The forged 2023 will. This is the fraud, created by a corrupt attorney at my brother Marcus's request, funded by $45,000 in payments, witnessed by paid-off care staff who never saw Grandma sign anything. Mum gasped. Dad's face went pale. Sophia looked at her phone like she wanted to escape. I clicked through 20 more slides. Email evidence, bank transfers, forensic analysis of the forged signature, testimony from memory care staff proving Grandma's incapacity. The FBI agents watched my parents carefully. The reporter typed notes furiously. Marcus is currently awaiting trial on federal fraud charges, I continued. He's facing 8 to 12 years in prison based on sentencing guidelines. Gerald Hobbs died without ever facing justice. But his law license was revoked posthumously, and his estate is being sued for damages. Mum, Dad, you're facing charges as co-conspirators. Trial set for November. Mum started crying. Dad tried to interrupt. I raised my hand. I'm not done. Next slide. Financials showing exactly how much my family had taken from me over the years. Grandma's estate. $1.8 million stolen through fraud. Financial support Marcus received. $127,000 in loans and gifts never repaid. Financial support Sophia received. $83,000 for wedding, car down payment, credit card bailouts. Financial support I received, $0. Time I spent caring for Grandma, 3,840 hours over 5 years. Time Marcus spent, approximately 6 hours. Time Sophia spent, 0 hours. I clicked to photos of my company's success, our Seattle office, a Bordeaux expansion, press clippings from Forbes, TechCrunch, Wine Spectator. While you were stealing from me, I built Crawford AgTech Solutions, now valued at $95 million with 47 employees across 3 countries. Annual revenue, $8.9 million and climbing. I did this without your help, despite your active sabotage, because I learned the most important lesson. Family is earned, not inherited through blood. Final slide. A photo of the vineyard, recent, showing the property I'd bought back. As of last week, I own Grandma's vineyard again, purchased at foreclosure auction for $2.3 million. I'm renaming it Eleanor's Legacy Vineyard, and 30% of profits will fund the Eleanor Crawford Foundation, providing grants to women in agriculture who've overcome family adversity. I paused, looking each family member in the eye. None of you will ever set foot on that property. None of you will see a penny from its success. None of you exist to me anymore after tonight. Dad found his voice shaking with rage. You self-righteous bitch, we're your parents. You can't just erase us. We made mistakes, but we deserve forgiveness. I smiled coldly. Forgiveness is for people who apologize and change. You did neither. You only came crawling back when you needed money. And now you're going to prison. Sophia sobbed. Natalie, please. I didn't know about the will thing. I just went along with what they said. I'm sorry. I turned to her. You never visited Grandma once in 5 years. You mocked my career choices. You blocked me on Instagram when I asked you to promote my company launch. You're sorry now because you're facing consequences, not because you care. Margaret stood, addressed the room. For the record, as Ms. Crawford's attorney, criminal charges are proceeding regardless of any family reconciliation. The fraud was committed against an estate, which makes it a matter of public interest. The victims are not just Natalie, but the state of Oregon and the integrity of its legal system. The FBI agents nodded. The reporter asked if she could quote that. Margaret said yes. I gestured to wait staff I'd arranged. Dinner will be served now. My family is leaving. Security guards I'd hired from a private firm entered the room. My parents started to protest, but the lead guard, a former Marine named Travis, 6'4" and 240 pounds, positioned himself behind Dad's chair. Sir, ma'am, time to go. They stood, humiliated, and shuffled out. Sophia and Brad followed, Sophia still crying. Amanda stayed seated for a moment, looking at me. I'm leaving him, she said quietly. The divorce papers are already filed. I'm taking our savings and disappearing. I just wanted you to know I'm not part of this. I didn't know. I nodded. Good luck. She left. The remaining guests ate a spectacular meal. Pan-roasted duck breast with cherry gastrique, Oregon truffle risotto, local halibut with chanterelle beurre blanc, paired with wines from Willamette Valley vineyards that now worked with my company. Conversation flowed. War stories from Margaret's prosecution days, Victoria's investment strategy insights, James's tales of harvests in Napa. The reporter got quotes from everyone confirming the story. At 10 p.m., I thanked them all, paid the $8,700 bill, including a 30% tip, and drove back to Seattle in my Tesla Model S, feeling lighter than I had in years. The Oregonian ran the story on September 9th. Front page of the business section, local tech CEO exposes family's estate fraud. Reclaims grandmother's vineyard. It went viral, picked up by national outlets. The comments sections filled with support, thousands of people sharing their own toxic family stories. My company's website traffic spiked 400%. We got 80 new client inquiries in a week. Board members congratulated me on handling the situation with grace and strength. The trial for my parents happened in November 2025. I attended every day of the week-long proceeding. Prosecutors presented overwhelming evidence. Margaret testified about the fraud's impact. Alan Hayes walked the jury through the document trail. The defense argued my parents had been manipulated by Marcus and Gerald, that they were naive victims who didn't understand the legal implications. The jury deliberated 4 hours and returned guilty verdicts on all counts. Sentencing came in December. Dad got 18 months in federal prison. Mum got 12 months, both followed by 3 years supervised release and restitution orders for $450,000. Each they'd never be able to pay. Marcus's trial was in January 2026. He took a plea deal, 8 years in federal prison. $900,000 restitution. Permanent ban from holding corporate officer positions. His wife Amanda had already moved to California, took their dog, changed her name. Marcus's brewery location, which had been sitting vacant since the first failure, was bought by a competitor who turned it into a successful cidery. Life has a sense of humor. 18 months after that confrontation at Canard, I'm writing this from my office in Bordeaux, where I'm spending a month overseeing our European expansion. Crawford AgTech is now valued at $180 million post-Series C funding. We employ 93 people across offices in Seattle, Portland, Bordeaux, and new locations in Mendoza, Argentina, and Melbourne, Australia. Revenue this year will hit $24 million. We've partnered with agricultural universities to develop curriculum on an AI-driven viticulture. Eleanor's Legacy Vineyard produces 4,200 cases annually, won double gold at the Oregon Wine Competition, and donated $180,000 to the Eleanor Crawford Foundation last year. My parents are both out of prison now, released early for good behavior. They live in a subsidized apartment in Gresham. Dad works part-time at an auto parts store. Mum does online tutoring. They've sent 47 letters to my office address, all returned unopened. Marcus has 6 more years in Federal Correctional Institution Sheridan. His wife never visits. Sophia and Brad divorced. She works at a dental office doing billing. Lives with a roommate in Hillsborough. Her Instagram account private with 200 followers. Not one of them has heard my voice since that dinner. I've built a life I'm proud of. I have friends who chose me, employees who respect me, clients who value my work, and a legacy project honoring the one family member who deserved it. I've been on 3 dates with a software architect named David, who makes me laugh. I've hiked 47 trails in the Pacific Northwest this year. I've learned conversational French, and I sleep 8 hours a night in a bed I paid for with money I earned through my own talents. The vineyard thrives under management by people who appreciate its history. The foundation has already helped 23 women launch agricultural businesses. Grandma's memory lives in productive ways, not buried under family dysfunction. The lesson here isn't about revenge, it's about boundaries and justice. When people show you who they are, believe them the first time. And when they've stolen from you, betrayed you, and then demanded you rescue them, the answer is simple. No. You don't owe anyone access to your success just because you share DNA. You owe yourself the dignity of surrounding yourself with people who've earned their place in your life. Family can be a beautiful thing when it's built on mutual respect and genuine love. But when it's built on exploitation and conditional acceptance, it's a prison you have the right to escape. Sometimes the best revenge is building a life so successful they choke on their regret every time they see your name in print. Sometimes justice means watching consequences catch up to people who thought they were untouchable. And sometimes peace means blocking numbers, returning letters, and moving forward with people who actually care about you, not what you can do for them. I chose all 3, and I've never slept better. Thanks for staying through this entire story. What would you have done in my position? Have you ever had to cut out family members who betrayed you? Drop your thoughts in the comments below. If this resonated with you, smash that like button and subscribe for more stories about setting boundaries and building the life you deserve. See you in the next one, where I'll share how my ex-business partner tried to steal my company and lost everything in the process.